We are proud of the fact that in 1970, the founding meeting of Greenpeace took place in this church. One day, we will look back at September 29th, 2007, with similar feelings. That here and on this day, a movement began to stop a bad idea in its tracks and to promote, instead, the flourishing health and well-being of our environment.
Thank you, Mr. Gore. Thank you for believing that we can stop global warming.
The battle is heating up over the BC Liberal Party's $3 billion highway megaplan, the Gateway Program. On this momentous weekend, while the Premier used Al Gore's visit to Vancouver for a little gateway greenwashing, a diverse group of Lower Mainland residents gathered at 2 rallies to oppose his controversial plan. Audiences of 300 strong at both events heard from respected scientists, environmental advocates, and politicians from several parties and all levels of government, who together urged a major investment in public transit instead of Gateway, which they say will make regional congestion worse and make it impossible to achieve Gordon Campbell's important commitment to reduce greenhouse gases. The Premier had reaffirmed these contradictory commitments the day before in another high-profile speech to the Union of BC Municipalities. While he pledged $250 million toward buses and bicycle infrastructure, most of it won't kick in until 2013, and he stopped short of funding any major new transit projects such as the long-awaited Evergreen Line. Critics at these rallies said these improvements in public transit are far too small and aren't coming nearly fast enough. The first rally of the day, dubbed the Spirit of Sustainability, was hosted by the Unitarian Church of Vancouver, partly aimed at welcoming local faith-based communities already concerned with the environment into the fold of the Stop Gateway movement. The crowd heard from rousing speakers like Burnaby Mayor Derek Corrigan, introduced as Gateway's most notorious opponent.
I won't dignify Gateway by calling it a plan. But it certainly is a calculated effort to further the main goals of the BC Liberal Party. Give business what it wants, regardless of the consequences, and deceive people into believing that there are simple solutions to complex problems.
The Gateway project is a product of denial ad absurdum. It's a typical big buck, politically motivated mega project divorced from any current biophysical reality.
If you live in North Surrey and you think about going to IKEA, what's the first thing you think about? How long it's going to get onto the Portman Bridge, right? Not the bridge itself. There is no congestion on the Portman Bridge. It's before the Portman Bridge. If you twin the Portman Bridge, you might free that up a bit. But if you double the number of lanes leading onto the Portman Bridge, all you've done is you've replicated the same bottleneck but made it twice the size.
These are the reports that Burnaby has filed with the provincial government in order to analyze Gateway. Our opposition is based on fact and based on study, including information like this. They know that this project will induce more sprawl and put even more pressure on our farmland and green space. They know that they are promoting single-occupant motor vehicles over public transit. They even know that, ironically, the pollution created by additional traffic will drift down the valley and pollute the very communities they have encouraged into their cars.
Armed with snacks of local organic produce, this group of cyclists made their way to the second rally of the day, where hundreds of protesters gathered outside the Weston Bay Shore downtown. They braved the cold and wet conditions to make their voices heard, while recent Academy Award winner and Nobel laureate Gore spoke inside. The rapidly growing coalition welcomed Gore to town with a message of real action on climate change by choosing public transit over the Ministry of Transportation's car-dependent highway expansion.
Not tripling that port, not paving our farmland, not doubling that bridge, not expanding that freeway, and instead taking that money that we save from not doing those things and getting us a bus that we can afford, that's there on time, that can get us about doing our business.
And from the grandmother of BC environmentalists, Betty Croswick, fresh out of Alouette Women's Prison for her recent activism to save Eagle Ridge Bluffs, came a hint of things to come should Gateway move forward.
Every rule and law that we have and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was put there by somebody's peaceful civil disobedience. So, it may come to that again, so think about it. Thank you.
Today's rallies weren't just about the better-known components of Gateway, the bridge twinning and highway widening, but also about the destructive impacts of the South Fraser Perimeter Road and Delta Port expansion on local communities and the environment.
Go quickly to see Delta, because the province has decided we're to become an industrial park. Gateway will cover 1,000 acres of our agricultural land.
When his own government, his own Department of Agriculture tells us that by 2025 we must add 200,000 acres of irrigated land in the Fraser Valley if we are going to be able to feed ourselves.
It was also a day dedicated to the future for BC's youth.
I actually come from a newer generation of people that are not just concerned about what we're passing on to the next generation, but are concerned about what the world's going to look like when we turn 40 or 50 or 60 years old.
It's just amazingly cool to see so many kids here tonight, but I want you to understand that this is all about you. That all of these people are standing out here in this pouring rain and this cold for you.
The evening finished off with some more eco-friendly entertainment, right down to this pedal-powered sound system, blaring music to revelers whose spirits at least could not be dampened.
And the tragedy will be, after they put the tolls on the roads and widened the highways and they filled up yet again with congestion, is that they will have no alternatives, locked in again to another generation dependent upon the car and the truck, without hope or possibility, at a time of peak oil and climate change and, oh yes, the litany is long. So here is this moment. Yes, to oppose Gateway, but more importantly, to put forward that vision of an alternative.
We are saying Gateway's no, transit yes. Gateway's no, transit yes.
This rainy Vancouver weekend may prove a watershed moment in the debate over Gateway. Two high-profile speeches by the Premier, today's a photo op alongside the world's most famous environmentalist, no less, set against two successful rallies by the ever-growing coalition to stop Gateway, and a mainstream media finally covering both. The contrast between these two campaigns are unmistakable. Campbell delivering his message inside the safe confines of big-ticket events as his opponents take their battle to the streets outside. And while the Premier faces increasingly difficult questions on Gateway from a once friendly media, this citizen-driven movement continues gaining steam. With the political temperature rising on global warming, the Premier's faulty logic on Gateway may finally be reaching its melting point.
No, transit yes. Gateway